looking at.
Yes, madam.
I was saying that there is another window which comes for accessibility, which is about opening multiple, chat rooms in Zoom. These days, when you do training, I think for that you have to, in settings, in accessibility, you have to open virtual rooms in Zoom.
I don't know. I will have to, I think, do some more research on this.
Yes.
But let this class, I think, go on.
Yeah, no, I'm saying just for the purpose, because now when we do training, we have to have multiple discussions rooms. Now most of the things are happening virtually. So that was one of the things I wanted to talk about in managed participants. So let's explore that for future classes.
Right. I think now you are the host.
Yes, I am.
So, madam, please proceed. Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you, sir. So we will wait for, because it's still not 10. So we will wait for some time. How was your experience in our last session, which was digital body language?
Yeah, it was good, ma'am, because there are so many things we know, but we don't practice actually. But and there are so many things we don't know. So that session was really, very good.
At times, even in trainings, what we discover, that's not something new being told to us. It's just that we've been made conscious and aware of it.
Right.
So, and it's all the more important because now so many things are happening, so many meetings are happening virtually. Globally, we are connected virtually, and locally, we are connected virtually. So it has become extremely important as in how we go about it.
And so many things we don't tell. Actually, we expect that participant will or some other people will follow, but we should tell actually.
Yes. Everything needs to be made explicit.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of things, because even in males, and then all of us struggle because males are not complete. The purpose is not stated. You happen to receive a long mail without knowing what the other person wanted to do and how to react to it. Yes. And at times this is very annoying also. And specifically if you're writing to a senior person, you should be using the time judiciously. Shorter mail, clear ask. Because, that's an omnipresent problem. I have done trainings on email writing skills also. And it's everyone's problem. When I do it at basic level, people agree, yes, they know all this. But what I then eventually did is I made a manual. And then I gave a situation. I asked people, please write a mail now.
Okay.
So then literally, because verbally they were saying, yes, they can do it, and yes, they know how to do it, and how should they be writing a mail. I would request people not speaking to put themselves on mute. Morning, Sudeep ji.
Morning, ma'am.
Morning, Chandra ji. Chandra ji, I will mute you. You unmute yourself whenever required, whenever you need to speak. So I was talking to Rupesh about the training which I did, which was an email writing skill. So verbally, everybody was knowing what is the right format of writing a mail. But when I gave them this booklet, gave them a situation, and asked them to write a mail, then I actually could figure out what was happening there. And that's what we do in trainings also. So if we really want to figure out a problem, it's practice. We need to force people into that situation within the training settings. We have to ask people, please do it. That's when you realize that that's the problem. So you need to conceptually tell them, you need to ensure that they practice during the training session itself. And you need to then, then probably, together tell them and give them a feedback that how can this be better. Because practice is the main thing. I mean, when they will go back from training rooms, they will not practice consciously. So at least 10 times every possible format, you make them practice within the training room itself. Morning, Parth. So you people have submitted your assignments?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And all geared up for the exam? This will be our last class, I believe. We'll have one
more review session.
Yes, one more review session post this. But with this, we'll wrap up. So I will talk about managing participants today. And I encourage you to bring in your examples of how you had been managing participants. So let's learn from each other's experience and make peer learning the real incentive of, because people have lived experiences which are more relevant and that way we can learn from each other. So what normally we've been talking about, what are the qualities of good facilitator, what are facilitation goals, and all of us know that at back of our mind we know that what are facilitation goals. So we design and plan a process, we run the process, we facilitate. We still have background noise. If you're not speaking, I would request you to go on mute. Okay. So what we normally do is that the key is encouraging people, engaging them, but at the same time controlling the process. Sometimes you might happen to see that everybody is talking, and people start getting into personal conflict. People start, the content or discussion is more around personalization. They start taking comments personally. They start arguing. They become offensive. So you need to also control the process. If a lot of open-ended questions are letting the discussion go haywire and out of the context, you go back to the closed-ended questions. So everything needs to happen in a format that you definitely enthuse them, engage them, encourage them, but how should you be controlling the entire overall flow of the session. You facilitate discussion, you stay neutral, you help them kick off and round up conversation, you highlight the point of consensus. So eventually when you need to conclude, you need to agree. So there are people who've been disagreeing with you, but you need to agree to disagree, and you need to consummate to a consensus and summarize the key takeaways. You intervene when necessary and clarify the group outcomes. But at the same time, when you let people think, you need to ensure that people are not group thinking. You want each individual to think and bring from their experience, but at the same time, ensure that they have a key takeaway and the content of the training of what we're trying to impart in the session is being conveyed. So you hold the time and space. So we've talked about all of it multiple times. We will deliberate on each of these points and then see what practically we can do in these situations. End of the day, you need to ensure that you leave the participants challenged and you engage them, and there is a follow-up conversation. Like in my training, I had been saying, make sure that you, in certain format, you help them create an action plan. You help them even, you can initiate the discussions around peer learning. What you can possibly do, you can force them to book calendars in the training room itself, or you tell them that, they can again meet for a coffee. So have those interactions incited or initiated right in the training room itself. And you can have a follow-up with them every 15 days. You can probably send them a follow-up video or a follow-up, maybe a case study or something as a role play. You tell them that they should connect, or there should be something in their calendar. So constantly, at least for 3 to 6 months, they should have a touch point in format of peer meeting or in format of contextually revising what was taught in the training. So what does a facilitator do? We have, we've talked about multiple times. Any specific point anyone wants to discuss? This is the slide which I have picked up from our last session. So Manisha, I will probably be muting you. So anybody who I mute due to background sound, please feel free to unmute yourself when you need to talk. Do you see my screen? I'm wondering somehow.
Yes, ma'am. Screen is there.
Okay. So these are facilitation goals. This is, we talked about what does a facilitator do. And we will talk about, the formats of encouraging versus control. So the participant needs to feel encouraged, engaged. They need to be emotionally included, because when that connection happens, what you're talking about, and if they are, they're able to connect it with their past experience, that's where the learning will stick. And how should you encourage the participant? I will talk about a couple of things here, but I want you guys also to share your examples, that what is it that you have done in past which has worked for you. Like, how should you be framing it up? You should plan opening comments carefully. You communicate your goals and you explain what you want to accomplish. So people are willing to speak when they know what is it that they will get the end of the day. People do it in the format of giving a brief about the organization, connecting the learning outcomes with the purpose of the organization, and connecting it to their work settings. So create those connections, create that, the desire in them that they should be willing to listen to. Get people talking up early. You can build in, those kind of icebreakers wherein there could be different icebreakers. Icebreakers to just know each other's name. Icebreaker to know something, something more about each other, knowing each other more formally. So you build your icebreakers in that format. Or you start with a safe question wherein everybody gets to talk. So you want them to participate. So initially, it's extremely important that how do you create that connection right in the beginning. You pump up the energy, you create that kind of enthusiasm. Because in physical exercises, in physical training rooms, that was much easier. We can still do that in Zoom in format of tic-tac-toe, or probably creating virtual rooms or virtual discussions and then letting people speak around that. So, just figure out ways. And if I, post my last conversation on icebreakers, if any one of you have experimented in virtual meeting, any icebreaker which could pump up the energy or which could excite the participant, please share. Anyone tried anything? Did you get my mail on icebreakers? Because I actually, clubbed them as in when should you know the name, when should you pump up the energy, what are group things. So did you get my mail? Did you read those icebreakers?
Last I got your mail, ma'am.
Yeah.
For last session.
Yes, last session.
Yes.
Because you asked me, so I shared all the icebreakers and all the brainstorming techniques which I talked about. So I shared a brief so you can use them and see what works for you. you use the physical space. Physical space, it was much easier when it was a physical setting for a training. But now, what you can possibly do, you can, virtual rooms is the only thing which I can think of. You create more random virtual rooms, create opportunities for people to talk. Has any one of you used virtual rooms in Zoom or Teams for that matter, or any platform?
No, I am not using
So it's very easy actually. There is a window which pops up in the Zoom, because for that you need to actually enable a setting. You need to go in accessibility. You need to enable a setting for virtual rooms. You click onto it. It pops up a screen which says, so it manually picks, you can manually select the number of people in each of the virtual room, or you can, the Zoom automatically does that. It only asks you how many people you want in each of the training room. You can say 2, you can say 3, you can 4, or virtual or manual. So when you initiate it, people start disappearing from your main window. They go to their individual rooms. They go to their, wherever 3, 4 people, they go into individual rooms. They do their discussions there, and then you close the room. Then they come back to your main window. So it's you got to experience it. It is as good as the virtual rooms created in the physical setting, but it works very well. I used it when people really enjoyed the experience. So I encourage you to use that, because that's one of the nice way to make to create those discussions. You make eye contact with individuals. You can always check with people, because in virtual setting you can check with people. That what is their comfort, because even in meetings, what happens, people get tired of seeing their videos on the screen and also talking. Sometimes people are not comfortable, seeing themselves and then talking on the screen. So you can always check comforts of people. If they want to share the video, don't want to share the video. So nobody talking and you see no one does not mean that these people are not interacting. But create that kind of a dialogue and checklist that how do they want to participate. Ask intermittent questions, see they're participating or not, but please check their comfort, because a couple of these things work better in physical settings. How should you be getting the discussion started? You can always say that, how, these are like how, what, and what if questions. What in your experience has led you to the view that you just expressed, or how do you think about the presentation? So these are open-ended questions. So you can ask why of anything, you can ask how of anything, and what of anything. This will help them be participative in the discussion. You can have a group-oriented questions like, would anyone be willing to share the reaction to the program? Does anyone have any ideas about how we should start this discussion? Does anyone have an open or a concern that they would like to raise to get us started? Or what experiences any of you have had about this issue? So things like that. So these are group-oriented questions. You can also have individual-oriented questions. Give me a minute. So individual-oriented questions, you need to be a little conscious about individual-oriented questions. At times, it might offend people, so it shouldn't be too personal. So you can always say that, probably I can say, Rupesh, what do you feel about what's happening in this topic, or what's happening currently in the room, or what are your views about this particular icebreaker, or you do a lot of reading, so what is your view on an issue like that? But it does not have to be very personal. Probably, considering diversity, it has to be completely inclusion, so you cannot comment on the way somebody look, the way somebody dress, or picking up a humor from there. You can always ask factual questions. What are some of the major pros and cons from your perspective? What statement did you actually hear made during the presentation that made you upset? What is best suited for, what could be a best suited exercise for deepening the learning about the subject to you? So you can always ask those questions, which is about increasing the participation. So I encourage now for probably two of you to share a way how you encourage participation in your training sessions. Anyone wants to? We have had a couple of people joining in late. So just for the interest of the group, what we are sharing is how do we encourage participations within the team, within the training session, whether physical or virtual. Anyone? I will start probably. Yes, Rahul, if you can possibly share maybe one of an example in the training session which you used, which helped you to make the group more engaging. It was very engaging for the group, but probably people felt encouraged to participate in the session. Are you there, Rahul?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
I've not seen you very frequent in our sessions. So did you attend? Is this the first class for you, or you've been attending sessions?
No, ma'am, I've been attending the session on and off.
Okay. So are you a part of training role currently? Are you?
No, ma'am, I'm part of the HR team, but I want to switch to training and development. That's why I opted for the course.
Anything you can think of which can encourage participation, whether it is maybe just a meeting or a training session or anything. Maybe just in gathering of people, something which has worked for you to encourage participation.
Maybe by incorporating some games, like practical games into the training session, or maybe like practically showing the things to the trainees rather than theoretical one that encourages the participation.
Yes, that's absolutely bang on, Rahul. So when we actually create those icebreakers, we get the people talking, we pump up the energy. So it does two things for us. First, it disassociates the people from anything which they've been doing prior entering the training room. And second, it helps them gain that confidence and intimacy and relationship within the people in the room, because then they're happy interacting, they are free, they feel the environment is good enough, and they can open up. So at the same time, what you need to ensure that when you open up, when people are free to interact, you need to also control the process. You need to make sure it shouldn't happen that the questions are so open-ended that people start defending their viewpoint. You need to make sure that you're controlling the process and you're moving ahead. So what are the things which you do to control the process if things are not in control? You set the parameters. You let the people know why you need their participations. and approximately how long like the discussions will last. You plot trends and summarize frequently. So think of this as jumping to the big picture. Remind people that what the goals and scope of the discussions are, make connections and point out the common themes, summarize the information and how it will be used. Because why it is important, if I'm there to talk about the ball and I start talking about maybe a cricket or things which are associated with that, or I'm completely off the track. So you need to bring me back to the discussion. You need to create those connections to the context or to the common theme. And you need to summarize in everyone's interest, because you have got an agreement from them right in the beginning that these are the learning outcomes, these are the goals, and this is what will be the key takeaway for all of us. So you need to ensure that you're bringing them back and you're always reminding them of a big picture. You pocket. Pocketing means capture key points in future discussions on a flip chart or a whiteboard to be ahead of the legend. What you can always do is use this parking lot. When you have finished your conversation or when you have finished your training session, you can always look at the questions you parked in the parking lot and see if you have answered them, if they're connected to the context of the training. If you have not answered them and they're off the track, you can always buy time. You can always tell them you can connect later, or you will connect them to the relevant person who can help them answer it. You ask close-ended questions, because at times open-ended questions, what they do is that they make the discussion very broad. The discussion is so open that it goes out of context. So when you want to bring it back to the discussion and you go back to the yes and no questions, single word, short phrases, what you want to, then you want to slow down the discussion and you want to regain the control. You should know when to stop. Bring the discussion to a close at an appropriate time. When you have reached your goal and when discussion is no longer fruitful, thank the group for their valuable input at that stage. So these are a couple of tricks and these are a couple of interjections which you ensure you follow. So when you want to control the process and your discussion is very broad. What should you be doing during the discussion? Are you with me on that? Encourage and control process. Anyone wants to add anything there? Anything I'm missing on, because I'm sure all of you have huge experience. So anything which I'm missing on and you want to add to ensure that your peers are learning from your experience? Okay, let's come back. So during the discussion, what are a couple of things which you do indirectly, which let people stay with you, which let people stay encouraged and engaged? You remain neutral. This does not mean that you don't have a viewpoint, but facilitators usually do not offer their own views. They help group members share theirs. So your role as a facilitator is to enable group discussions. If you have valuable ideas or opinion that are essential to what is being discussed, put your facilitator role aside and ask someone else to facilitate. You can say, this is how do I feel? But you don't have to, because sometimes what happens as a facilitator, people start seeing you as a is there anything, Rupesh, you're writing in a chat, Noida chapter? Okay, that's what you told us. Sorry. So what you can possibly do, people start seeing you as an expert. So you need to ensure that you stay away from being called an expert position. So what you can possibly, when you remain neutral, you need to ensure that your viewpoint, people should not start taking sides. You should not be taking sides, and you should refrain from expressing your point of view. You can always say, I have an opinion I would like to share. So I'm taking my facilitator role off for a comment. So this is in an individual capacity, not as a facilitator. How do you some of and how do some of the rest of you feel about that? So you need, you need to ensure people who are talking, their viewpoint is valued. People who are not talking, they are encouraged to talk. You stay off the soapbox. So successful facilitator listen rather than they talk. They watch for danger signals, like talking too much, feeling the need to address all the questions, seeing the group interacting more with you rather than with each other, engaging in a dialogue with individual member of the group. So you please refrain from all this and you make sure that you're staying off the soapbox. Are you with me on that?
Yes, yes, no, yes.
Yeah. Avoid being put in the position of an expert. As I said, you need to make sure that you're not seen as an expert, and you do not. You should refrain from saying your answer, my answer. Turn the situation back to a questioner and ask the question to the whole group. If you are stuck if you believe that you're stuck or lost, admit it honestly. Someone will always come to your rescue. So as a facilitator, you can always invite people. How would you handle that situation? Stay away on your own hot buttons. Who can explain or probably a one-liner on what is hot buttons? This time, Arnab. Arnab, I think last time you were not able to unmute yourself and talk. So, any view on what are hot buttons?
Hot buttons. First of all, good morning, and I think we are able to speak with you for the first time.
Yes.
There is some network issue here, and because of COVID, the society is on red alert. So
yes.
no one is coming for repairing the connection.
I can understand.
So please bear with me if sometime I'm not able to connect. Yes, ma'am. Your question was stay away from hot buttons, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So during my training experience, some of the hot buttons could be personal experiences or maybe related to the job, which has been, especially appraisals, if they have happened pretty recently, and post that the participants are sitting in training and you raise that issue in a training session, you know how the hot buttons are on. So तो वो लोग ये रिस्पॉन्स देते वही तो दुख है अर्नब जिंदगी में मिलता ही इस कंपनी में. So that can be hot buttons, and similarly there can be many more issues. So one has to be sensitive to participant while conducting the training or discussions.
True. Yeah. Completely with you. Yes, thank you. That was useful. So I will just pick it up from there on the left. Absolutely, your prejudices, your biases, what has happened in your own personal life, what you start connecting it to the broader things and you start bringing it. So it's not about you, it's about them. And also you need to make sure that people are able to understand they're not personalizing the entire scheme of things, or they're not seeing the current context from their past experience. You need to disassociate their thinking process also in a format to make sure that the learning is right. And at the same time, you don't bring your biases into the training room and you don't connect, oh, this is exactly like me. So biases actually, we bring in our experience and we try and connect and accordingly acknowledge or judge a situation with the past lens. So don't bring in judgment, don't bring in biases, don't bring in prejudices.
Ma'am, Jitendra here.
Yes, please.
So we can say it's a hot button is a situational based activation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please carry on.
Actually, what is the whatever we have discussed, it is all about the hot button is based on the situation.
Yes.
We are not pre-activated with the hot buttons. As per the situation, when in curves, then the hot button will be activated.
True. But hot button always have a past association. So what will happen is if something aches you and maybe मेरे साथ तो हमेशा ऐसे ही होता है मेरे साथ हमेशा the word I mean the God is always so so hard with me in a situation like that. See, what I'm saying is you keep this is what we teach in NLP. You keep associating things and you keep building your story and you keep building and connecting those memories and keep storing them. When something like that happens in your present, you bring that association from the past and try and connect it to what is happening now. So everyone has hot button in the sense like किसी को कोई चीज से बहुत गुस्सा आ जाता है और वो सिचुएशन अगर वैसे होती है तो उसको फिर से वही गुस्सा आ जाएगा. Yeah, maybe circumstances like that, then they will bring in their past misery that something like this happened to them. So make sure that you're not bringing those situations, those associations from your stories in the past and memories of the past.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
So extremely relevant. Jitendra, what you said is that's how it happens. That's how it actually get triggered. And we spend more time on it. How you are as a facilitator keep become a gatekeeper. See, what all these things when you will do these things, you ensure that in a way you are encouraging participation and you are engaging people and you are making them feel included. So what does gatekeeping means? You will acknowledge contribution. You should always be thanking people, thanks Arnab for saying that no one had mentioned that before. Thanks for that helpful contribution. It is not easy to share a personal experience. That was very courageous. So it's I can say, Arpita, I appreciate your offering a different viewpoint. You made a strong general statement. And I can always encourage probably Rupesh, what do you think about it? Could you restate your point as I instead of we? Because let them own that yes, they are contributing to a training situation and you're acknowledging and appreciating them. And make it little specific. You can't simply be saying thanks. You should be connecting to what they contributed, connect it to their contribution, then they will really feel that you acknowledge them. And
पैसा मैं देगा बाद में मैडम बाद में देगा मैडम
okay, now we keep the focus on the idea and not the individual. So what we mean by this is we ask the group to identify pros and cons of a position rather than having an individual explain or defend a position. So what you can ensure at times, if we make it individual specific, individual may feel offensive. And it is not in each person's viewpoint. So what you can ensure that you divide the group in half, ensure each half include representative of different viewpoint, and you ask each group to develop one side of an argument. So it's not individual. So you should not single out an individual. Go around the circle, asking everyone to say something about the topic and indicate in what ways they agree with the previous speaker. Then ask the reporter to summarize the primary feeling expressed by the group. You create a small group, which encourage each one of them to participate and talk in the conversation. You can always ask the group to brainstorm on the ideas. So keep it on the ideas and not on the individual. So everybody is participating, and you ensure that take shorter groups, smaller groups, so that everybody gets to participate. Keep the focus on the subject without restraining the free expression of ideas. You have made an interesting point, but how would you say that it relates to the topic we have at hand? It seems that we have started another topic without finishing the first. Should we return to the issue we've been discussing before going on? Get participants to own their comments rather than speaking in generalizations about what others think. So let everybody own, everybody feel appreciated, and everybody stay on the subject. You summarize, that's extremely important. what you can do is that some of the main points I've heard, what are some of the main themes which you think we have talked about? Can someone give a brief distillation of the points we had just discussed? Also, be patient with silence. It's important that you emphasize the importance of pause time. Encourage each person to be aware of their own pause and time before jumping in. It shouldn't be like maybe Shrutika is not talking and I jump onto talking on her behalf. So just give the time, because everybody has different personality type and they have their own format of interacting and connecting and gathering their thoughts. Give them that time. Let them feel comfortable in that space. Read non-verbal cues. There are some people dominating the discussion? Are there many interruptions? Observe who is participating, who is not. What is the level of the energy in discussion? May people seem little restless, you take a break. If people are uncomfortable, if the energy of the group is going down, you can have a quick short icebreaker. So this is how you bring them back. You pose a disagreement very constructively. If there is a disagreement and discussion is stuck, have the participant agree to disagree and move on to another subject. So you can say, can we explore each of the viewpoint as a group and try to understand them rather than having one or more person defend each view? It is clear there is not agreement on the issue, which is perfectly fine. Can we all agree not to be in agreement on this and move on to consideration of another fact? You should minimize attack at times. What you also do, what you also see, that people start personally attacking each other. So you remember, keep reminding people of the ground rules which you said right in the beginning. You minimize disruptions such as like inappropriate humor, and it's extremely important considering the more diverse setup we have, more global setups we have these days. People walking in and out and private side conversations, confront other problem behavior that interfere with the progression of the group. It's really hard to focus if there is a lot of side conversations. You can simply say this. And there's one participant who's creating that kind of more disruptions in the group. You can individually attack and probably have a conversation, rather have a side conversation with this individual, try and understand what's running in his mind. These days it's very easy also. You can probably say, if we want to, let's agree to disagree, and if you want to continue in our conversation in the session. So these you can always you can even say these days in Zoom you can remove a participant as well. But you don't want to do that, but you want to have a side conversation to make sure in the larger interest of the group that you are progressing. Anything else anyone wants to share here? So today, everything what we've been discussing around participant, we're discussing around encouraging versus control, because that's extremely important. Yes, you with me on that? Okay. So now what when we say encouraging participants is that we talked about it a couple of times now already. We monitor, so we create a safe and trusting environment. We monitor excessive talkers and we prompt the quieter members. So we make sure that those quieter members are also talking. We consider breaking people into trios, and I said smaller groups. We encourage participants to talk. We hope that you will say what's running in your mind. What we say here today is the group will not go beyond the group. So what you need to ensure, sometimes people have apprehensions that you will share whatever is being discussed in the training room outside the training room. So you need to give them that comfort, so they can trust this is a risk-free environment and they feel open to have a conversation. you set and reinforce a pattern for participants to talk to each other. So what we can, so who is talking and who is not talking? Is there a pattern? I have noticed that some of you have not said what you think. I hope we will find a way to hear you. So be careful by not taking the name, but make sure that you get everybody to participate. I have noticed that some of you haven't said anything. Feel free to jump at any point. Maybe John or Neha, if you want to, let's hear from them. You acknowledge. So we talked about this. Acknowledge the feeling. So it's what is extremely important is that you are acknowledging the feeling. It shouldn't be very, if something, you be very watchful on their body language and you try and understand what's running in there and how are they feeling. So acknowledge their feeling also. I can see how upset you are. So what do you think about the topic when you hear from them? I bet you're not the only one who has that reaction. Maybe some of you also felt that way. Ask individually and group to respond to an expression of emotion. So what you need to ensure that you are connecting whatever is been happening with their emotions, and that's when they are willing to come back and have a conversation. So would you like to talk about feelings that you have expressed? Do you want to keep going? Shall we take a break? So this seems to be a lot of discussions on this break issue. How can we keep going and get past this point? When I see people angry, it's hard for me to listen because I'm worried about people getting emotionally or physically hurt. Could you take a minute here to breathe and make sure we can talk about this respectfully? So you need to make sure that people are respectful to each other, but at the same time, people are comfortable with each other. You can always acknowledge if it's an emotionally difficult situation, so you can always acknowledge that too. I'm missing on my screen, so give me a minute. My screen has paused. I will stop the screen. I will start. Somehow I'm not able to see my screen. I will stop and I will start one more time. So that's enough about encouraging participants, and how do you advance and deepen the discussion? So it's extremely important that you are letting people participate and let them express their viewpoint. So at the same time, when they connect with the experience, it becomes easier for them to, to deepen their learning. You can always invite amplification of the new point. You can encourage the contribution to explain the background behind their ideas and opinion. Because everybody you have in the room is coming there in that room for a reason. They have a huge experience, and if they bring their experience into the training room, it will be much more relevant for the entire group. So it's important that you let them connect back to their experience and bring in examples which will make the entire content more relevant. So what is your opinion, given the fact that, as you have said them, when I hear those facts, it makes me feel like these are interesting facts. Would you like to share how you feel about them? So such questions will, these open-ended questions, they will let them people share their experience and also possibly bring in facts and examples from their real work settings. You encourage people to take some risk. You can start with admitting your mistakes. Take a risk yourself and be more vulnerable. And you can always see when you start with a story and when you start with a personal experience or probably something just happened to you and you show yourself in a position of vulnerability, people feel encouraged to talk. Open-ended questions, what, how, why questions. Follow-up or probing questions. Can you say a little more about it? What do you mean by that? Can you give me an example? How did you come to this view? What convinced you of your opinion? So things like that actually let people build onto their own point of view and at the same time let them open up and also encourage others to open up and probably bring in those examples, because since you are very specific, sometimes people don't really know what should you be talking. If you're really specific in terms of asking them, it gives them a context, it gives them a framework or a structure to talk around that. Always paraphrase, let me see what you, let me see what if I understand what you just said. So let people, legitimize what you've been saying, and they connect, and then they are willing to answer you. You clarify without interrupting. Can you clarify that last comment? I'm not sure that I've understood what you've been saying. Can I try to clarify what I think you just said? Can I restate that in a different way? What do you mean by that? So all these things help you be more clear and open up the dialogue and create a structure to the dialogue. Ensure there is no groupthink happening. You should give them an alternative viewpoint, because sometimes what happens that if there are one or two persons who are very vocal in the group, they take everybody in that direction. They even alter the way the entire group thinks. So you need to make sure that you give them an alternative viewpoint and then multiple format to think around. And it should not, one person's judgment or a thinking or a strong thinking or talking should not, force them to agree to somebody who is dominant in the group. Encourage feelings as well as ideas. You make sure that they're not statements. Feelings are expressions of emotions. Somebody is angry, frustrated, joy, and happiness. So you acknowledge all that. Okay, are you with me on this?
Yes.
Now I've spoken enough. Before I go to aberrations, I want a couple of you to bring in examples from your training sessions. So in aberrations, what I will talk is sometimes, very difficult participant. How should you be handling them? Sometimes conflict suffer. People are not, responding to what you're saying. Someone put another person down. There are hostile members. Something inappropriate or offensive happen in your training room. So how do you handle that? So with this, so Sudeep, I invite. So what are some of the other things which you have faced in your training situations, which you have, and how have you handled them? Or anything specific about managing participant, which you have, which you have faced, and you believe. Maybe we start with Rupesh. So but today I want to hear each one of you. So maybe one-liners or specific situations or specific problems you have faced. So we start with Rupesh and then we go round robin and we'll have a conversation. At least 2 sentences from all of you.
Actually, it depends because some of time, some people try to show that they know better than you, more than you. So this may be, problem for the trainer itself.
So how do you handle that?
So it's, that time we have to accept that yes, that's why I'm not here to teach you, or I'm not here to, train you, but we are discussing the things and something will get out better. So in that way, accepting that attitude is more important than anything else that time, that situation, in that situation.
True. accepting and at the same time ensuring that the entire group does not get disturbed with all that.
Right,
and,
right,
and
right.
you manage the flow. Yes.
Right, right.
Something. Chandra ji.
Yeah, ma'am. Can I, Jitendra here?
Yes, Jitendra, please go on.
Ma'am, I remember those days when I started my first classroom training. Though when I just stood up the other side of the table, the participants' age was minimum 45 to 50, and I was 27.
Yes.
So when I started to put my just training presentation over the screen, so they were laughing behind of me. So I
Yes.
thought, the for the couple of moments I just shocked what is going on. So I just closed my PPTs, presentation. I shut down the projector and started. So is there an interesting point there? What you all are laughing? Please let me know. So I should laugh with you. They said, sir, we are laughing. We didn't see the trainer at the age of 27. That is a point of laughing. No, sir. My age is 45 and I'm working in the PepsiCo from last 21 years. Wow. So, okay, tell me 5 things. Okay, I understood what you are trying to say. I'm not much more enough to tell you what you're going through. So tell me 5 things about the merchandise. Okay, if you tell me the 5 things, I will close down the training session. I'll go out. That's it. Tell me the 5 points, or tell me the 3 P's of the merchandising. Whenever we are going to any retail shop, what is the right criteria to fix up the poster, banner, or dangler? Tell me. So he started struggling. Sir, वो counter के पास, sir, यहाँ वहाँ. मैंने कहा, what is the right place? That is, I am asking. What is the right place? If you know everything and you have spent 21 years in the PepsiCo, so tell me, only 3 things I have asked. 3 P's, or tell me the 5 things of the merchandising. Or tell me the 5 hot spots of the any retail shop. There are 5 hot spots of the retail shop where we can influence to the buyers to fix up the poster, banner, danglers. So he said, sir, lower side of the counter. I said no. So he said, sir, above the limit of the height of the human. No. So he said, sir, back side of the shop, where the shop is moving now, where the shop sides is moving, shop walls is moving, we will focus 5 poster at a one side. I said no. Then one lady started. She was 32 years old. So I said, sir, now you tell sir where is the 5 hot spots in the retail shop where we can fix up the posters. So I tell back side of the cash counter. When you are entering the shop, it should be the limit. It should be up from your west side. That should be the eye contact, and there is a dedicated rack which is given by the company where you can place the your merchandising posters, and the wobblers you can fix up the banner of the outlet. Then they accepted me, and now then they started about the discussion. And that day I never run that PPT. It is all about the experience which I have gained through my just sales experience. The entire day thrown throughout the PPT, without the PPT and without any that story, and that is all about based on the real experience, what they have shared and what I have shared. That was my first day of the classroom training in the multinational. So I can't never forget that.
Wonderful. I think you had earned the right to stand on the dais by creating that credibility for yourself.
Right.
That's very important, because sometimes what happens is either people are constantly taking or interpreting your experience, or they're constantly setting their your credibility in their mind. They do that with the the moment I go stand there and I say I passed out of an IIT, then I did my IIM, I worked with, top Forbes list companies for 20 years. And somewhere people are then willing to listen to me. So first, initially, people are not willing to listen, but when I talk about it, when I give my credentials, at least people to an extent they're okay. This person has huge and has wonderful behemoth background and educations, maybe have some relevant things to say. So that also happens when, but absolutely, as you stated, by asking them specific questions and giving them relevance in what you're here for, also earns you a right. So first is earning a right to stand there and letting people open and willing to talk to you.
Even I would like to share one more thing about this. We all are the trainers which we are doing that batch ISTD. It is all about, it is difficult for all trainers कि सामने वाला बंदा होता है ना, उस ट्रेनर को वो लगता है, वो ट्रेनर को वो समझता है यार इसको तो जॉब आसानी से मिल गई है, इसका तो कोई काम नहीं है, बस आएगा पीपीटी खोलेगा, ज्ञान देगा और चला जाएगा. इसको ना सेल्स का टारगेट है, ना ऑपरेशन का टारगेट है, ना सप्लाई का टारगेट है. बट वो कोई भी sometimes they even understand कि we have, what we did the homework for the last night for today's session.
True.
And even some of the points, whenever the policies is going against wrong or something, ever kuch bhi hota hai, either we have recruited somewhere and the churnout percentage has been over. Like out of 35, 5 chale gaye ya 7 chale gaye. It might be possible that it is about the sales, it is about the pressure they can't handle, it is about that work nature they can't handle or they can't balance their life. And but majorly they flow कि यार ट्रेनिंग में सिखाया नहीं गया, ट्रेनिंग में समझाया नहीं गया, प्रेशर कैसे डील करना है, ये कैसे डील करना है. This is all about that they finger out to training.
True.
And in that time we have to be stay, मतलब जैसे लगता है कि पूरा ज्ञान और ऋषि मुनियों का ज्ञान हम ही लोग को लेके बैठना है. हम चिल्ला नहीं सकते हैं, हम अपने शेवर में रहेंगे, हम बोल नहीं सकते हैं, हम ज्वालामुखी की तरह ठंडे बने रहेंगे, हम ऊपर उबल नहीं सकते हैं. कभी कभी तो ऐसा लगता है बस ऑफिस के कॉर्पोरेट चेयर से आओ और वो जो ओपन वाला एरिया है वहां आगे इतना इवन ये मेरा नहीं है. आई होप कि ये एवरी ट्रेनर्स के साथ जितने भी कॉर्पोरेट्स में है वो सबके साथ.
True.
Even sometimes when you are doing the freelancing training ना, so client वो सोचता है कि बस आपने ट्रेनिंग की 3 घंटे की और लड़की की कैपेबिलिटी बस 3 into 400 1200 हो जानी चाहिए.
True. See, training normally doesn't happen in training rooms. Training happens with functional managers, with a lot of reinforcement, with real situations, with real guidance, real-time guidance in terms of how, in this particular situation, how they bring in content. So it's a lot of conscious positioning which individuals, their managers, their peers needs to help them enable to translate this training into real experience. And everybody is together. So training is not only happening in training rooms. That's what functional managers needs to be very, very clearly told right in the beginning. And they need to be, holding their skills with you on that. And training is a difficult thing because most of the time, the kind of perception and the kind of thought process people have around it, they come with a closed mindset. So they enter the training room, they believe that they'll get good food, they will not have work for 2 days. So they come right in the beginning that this is what they will relax and chill for next 2 days or next 1 day or for some hour. So trainer has a very difficult role. So first of all, setting up the credibility, at the same time enabling an environment which let these people open up, encourage these people despite whatever their intent of ensuring that they don't want to participate, because the inhibition is huge. So you need to battle all that. So, and you need to constantly, with each of the participants, training people are not very open to. So you need to make sure that you tell them a content, they bring in their experience, you let them connect the experience. First of all, they should be willing to bring in that experience. And you connect that experience with the content and you create a case study, let them practice that content in the training room itself, and you create that kind of reinforcement with action planning. you connect and create that kind of ecosystem. And I'm completely with you. I think we are all together in this. We all face it day in, day out. But the more we do it, the more we more comfortable we are with that, and we explore more situations, considering the experience we get, that how should we be handling for future. Anyone else wants to share? Shrutika, we have not heard you. So anything from you? Sudipji, you're very
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
there was a network problem. Okay.
Yes.
I just want to share that was in starting of my career. That was my second company. I was assisting my manager on training. In that, it was like how to be a good manager with a good leader. That training was for that, for the senior managers. So in that, what I was observing managers, that they were so rigid that we are good managers, we don't need this. So they were like opposing the training. So my manager was handling them by telling me, we are not saying that you are not good managers. We are just want to tell you that you can improve in your as a manager, you can become a leaders also, so that your team will be happy and your work would be more effective. So they were so rigid and they were like opposing the training. But in the end, my manager cope up with them by giving a normal their experience, sharing their experience also, interacting with them. So that was my experience actually.
You did not have any scorecards, functional scorecard, because I think I am best, but let people say I'm the best.
The people were telling that, oh, my team is happy with me. There is no query, no question. They always respect me. They understand my situation and they don't make me do things ki main unko gussa karu and all. They were people like that.
But did you
They were
not take
comparing.
one? I'm sorry,
Sorry?
go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
नहीं, they were comparing with different teams also कि वहाँ पे तो उस team में they are not happy, people are not happy, they are मतलब अपनी सीट पे नहीं बैठे होते हैं, मेरी तो team सीट पे बैठ के हमेशा काम कर रही होती है. So they were start comparing also.
In such times, no, the scorecard in individual conversation with the DRs and peer really helps.
Yes.
That's
So
like
that was I have first training which I have joined where the participants were opposing the trainer.
It happens. The more senior people you have in the room, and the more it happens.
How been?
Sudeepji, we want to hear you as well before we jump onto our aberration slide, which I'm sure each one of us is.
Ma'am, before convincing the trainees, convincing the people who are nominated, the nomination itself is sometimes so weird because the people are sent just like that. For example, I was conducting a training on leadership, but the people who were sent, they were nowhere about to, go for the leadership position. So you send the wrong people and then you expect miracles to happen. That is the most difficult part we find as a freelance trainer.
True. And I think still the job is easier for a freelance trainer because within the organization, people feel constrained in terms of this person is so senior, this is how you can give role plays to this person. So there are constraints within the organization also. Sometimes you can't be very open. You can't do coaching and mentoring. People are not open to coaching and mentoring for people within the organization. At times, if things like that, leadership is not relevant and those situations will not come in the life of those people and trainees, we can always, tone down our training. We we can move it to more managerial things. We can move it to more, experience, emotions, and emotional maturity, because they need to be successful in their own professional life, not necessarily be leading people. At least be more successful on the perception level and with their own peers. So in that situation, because organization may say anything, but you can modify the content of the training outcomes or learning outcomes by connecting the role plays which are toned down. I mean, I can't be sending a fresh campus graduate and ask you to give them a leadership training.
No,
So,
that is one aspect. Another thing is, we don't even know who the participants are till the last moment. So when we land up at the training hall, then we come to know the kind of profile that we have.
true. Yes.
So we can't modify our training. The presentation, we can't do anything. But yeah, we try to manage with that. But most of the time it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And most of the time, training is not the solution for all the problems of the people.
I completely agree.
And
Many times.
So the issue is not pertaining to training. You can't train or develop that person. The problem is something else.
Yes.
Maybe he is disgruntled with the kind of treatment he has been meted out by his senior, or the kind of rating he has got in the performance management system. But he's been sent for a motivational training. Now, how the hell a trainer will motivate when the organization itself is not taking care of the motivational aspect of that person? So many things. So these kind of things we try to convince, but becomes very difficult actually.
True. See, in a context like that, what I still suggest, how should one be interacting with their peers? How should one be creating their own perceptions? So let them be their own brand. So what I meant to say is that modify your training in such a scenario, maybe just a facilitation of it, not modifying it at a presentation level, but make something which is relevant. This person should remember you for life. This person should remember you for probably, you help them gain more emotional maturity. You help them understand the difference between skill and will issue. You mentor them for reverse mentoring. So if they are so disgruntled with their managers, ask them to frame or probing questions in a format that they get real guidance and right guidance from their manager. So make them more mature in their questioning, probing ability, in their own ability to create their brand and more perceptions around themselves. The way be more mature in terms of asking and framing questions.
Yeah.
Ma'am, can I?
I was conducting a workshop on the PMS system for a public sector undertaking. And I met with a person who was dropped for about 6 or 7 years. He was not promoted he was eligible and he was not promoted for 7 years. And he was bitter inside out.
I'm sure.
So I tried to convince every kind of trick I used, but he had answer for all that. Then I gave up. I said, then the world is outside. World is much bigger than the company. Then you should better start looking for a job outside. But he was too old to even do that.
Share some of your tricks here, for us to use.
Ma'am, can I? Jiten here.
Yes, please, Jiten.
As a trainer, sir, if we mix it about the training, what we get, if we will get about, if we will divide it to this percentage wise, na, so we will take कि हमें जो नया रिक्रूटमेंट परसेंटेज बैच मिलता है वो 30% होता है, ठीक है, रिफ्रेशर ट्रेनिंग 20% होता है. इवन मैनेजर रिकमेंडेशन जो होता है वो होता है कि अनहैप्पी है, इसकी प्रोडक्टिविटी नहीं आ रही है, इसकी केपीआई नहीं आती है, वो होता है 50% का बैच. वो 50% बैच वो होता है जैसा कि अभी मेरे कलीग ने बोला कि वो अंदर से भरा होता है, प्रमोशन नहीं हुआ है, इग्नोर नहीं हुआ, एंड they wanted a place where they burst out. वो ट्रेनिंग सेशन होता है, सर ये नहीं हुआ, सर वो नहीं हुआ, सर ये नहीं हुआ. Then we'll talk about अच्छा, सब लोग ये कहते हैं टेंशन, उसमें से कुछ क्या होते हैं जो हैवी टेंशन में होते हैं, they started smoking and they started, वो एवरी 5 मिनट के बाद उनको ब्रेक चाहिए होता है, हर 5 मिनट के बाद ब्रेक. Then one of the incident I'll share with you कि हर 5 मिनट के बाद 5-6 लोगों का ग्रुप जो एज में मेरे से बहुत ज्यादा बड़े, जैसे 45 to 48, एक होता है एज गैप भी होता है जब पे आप मना करने में थोड़ा सा वो हिचक होती है. तो आई सेड कि यार दादा आप लोग ये बात बताओ. सो दादा सेड दैट इज अ ब्रदर. आई सेड कि दादा आप ये बताओ, बिकॉज बीइंग एज अ familiar with the participant is a very best option to catch up the training mindset. So I asked कि दादा आप लोग 5 मिनट जाते हो दिन भर ऐसे ऐसे आप स्मोक करते हो, चलो कोई बात नहीं, वो आपकी पर्सनल लाइफ है, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू इंटरवेन, बट ये बताओ बस चाय की दुकान पे चाय पियोगे, सुट्टा मारोगे और ऊपर सर के मतलब सर के ऊपर धुआं उड़ाओगे, क्योंकि बड़ी टेंशन है यार सर, बड़ी टेंशन है यार, इस टेंशन को हटाओगे कैसे? कह रहे सर कोई सुनने वाला नहीं है. मैंने कहा क्यों सुनने वाला नहीं है? बोले सर देखो मैंने 97 में ज्वाइन किया था, 97 के बाद 2010 वाले को मेरा बॉस बना दिया. अब वो कहता है आपसे ये नहीं हो रहा है, आपसे वो नहीं हो रहा है, आपसे वो नहीं हो रहा है, उसको ये मालूम है कि ये चीज कहाँ रखनी है, कैसे रखनी है. मैंने कहा दादा ये सही है, सपोज करो आपका बेटा है, आई सेड कि सपोज करो इफ यू हैव अ सन एंड ही नोज he didn't know anything how to do it. क्या होता है जब छोटे बच्चे को, जब छोटा बच्चा होता है, आपके घर में छोटा बच्चा है, बोले हाँ मेरा पोता है, मेरा ग्रैंडसन है, मैंने कहा अच्छा. छोटे बच्चे की एक आदत होती है, घर में कहीं पे भी स्विच बोर्ड होता है वो उसमें जाके उंगली जरूर करता है, ठीक है, उसको टच करेगा, उसको उसमें जो होल्स बने होते हैं पिंस के उसमें डालेगा. एक बार उसको शॉक लग जाता है, क्या दोबारा वो हट जाता है? बोले कभी नहीं जाएगा सर, एक बार लग चुका है. मैंने कहा क्यों नहीं जाता? बिकॉज ही लर्न कि इसको छूने से ब्रेक लगेगा या इसको छूने से झटका लगेगा. दैट इज हाउ टू डील विद द सीनियर कि सर ये प्रॉब्लम आप करेंगे तो इसका ये सही है, आप ये स्टेप सही उठाओगे और इसका ये गलत आउटकम आ सकता है. आई एम सजेस्टिंग यू, आई एम नॉट डायरेक्टिंग यू, आई एम सजेस्टिंग यू. तो उसका सीनियर भी वहां बैठा हुआ था. मैंने कहा Did you understand what I'm trying to say? बोले yes sir I understand. मैंने कहा इसके पास एक्सपीरियंस है 22 साल का, तुम्हारे पास डिग्री है and तुम्हारे पास मैनेजर स्किल है. So your manager skill is depend to how to manage this. So this kind of training we have to be tackle out.
हम एक ट्रेनिंग करते हैं मैनेजिंग अक्रॉस जनरेशंस, जिसमें आप किसी भी टीम में देखेंगे, जैसे आप मिलेनियल्स की बात करते हैं, जेन वाई की बात करते हैं, तो किसी भी पॉइंट इन टाइम पे एक टीम में 4 जनरेशंस काम कर रही होती है. So you need, how should you be behaving with each of these generations to let them contribute their best and be more productive. Most of us would be in another 10 years time would be working for bosses younger than us, which is fine. I think this generation is smarter, but we need to ensure with our leadership and managerial quality that how are we getting best out of each other. So I completely take your points. Then I think when you help people understand by connecting it to the emotional self, like you started with helping them connect with their grandsons or granddaughters, it becomes much easier for them to understand. So I think that was a great way and wonderful way to help them deepen and understand those learnings. Thank you for sharing that. Anything else from anyone, or we will quickly finish this slide which is on aberrations. Anyone wants to say anything else? Okay, we will go on. So what happens that no one respond? You ask for any comment, you suggest an answer, you ask for agreement or a disagreement. So no one respond, you can probably say, okay, we will come back, we will see that we have opportunities to contribute when we have more content shared around to connect to your experience. Someone who does not take the discussion seriously and give you silly comments, you find something in their answer that is close to the serious answer, and in a serious tone, repeat it to them. So maybe sometimes people may say something extremely stupid and silly, but you will be able to extract something out of their answer and connect it back to the main question. Ask them if they can think of another answer, compliment them when they give you a serious answer. I think most people are here because they think the topic is valuable one. Does anyone feel differently from this? So what you need to also ensure that you need to, if somebody says something, you need to look for an alternate answer from them, but at the same time, in a different way, you need to caution them that that we have an agreement on the goal, and it's best utilization of everyone's time that we gave an agreement and we stay on the goal. So it's caution, ensuring, because that's how you constantly, these are the things which you do to ensure that the participants don't repeat this behavior throughout the training. You can always say, please try to respect others' people feeling here. This is a serious issue. I know that laughter can mean that people are nervous or feeling uncomfortable. Does anyone has a special concern? So make sure that you caution them enough, and you're very clear in what you want to convey. People monopolize the discussion. They say, so what? Somebody is constantly talking. So, and now this is the person who talks maybe 80% during the training session. You can always say, I would like to hear from rest of the groups. What do they think? Ask another question as soon as this person pauses. Ask for agreement and disagreement from others. Explain or appreciate their comments, and then say that it's important. So you can always say, yes, when Shrutika, I value your point, but it's extremely important that everyone contribute to the discussion. If midstream within the training session, you need to re-establish the ground rules to that. That would provide, so our goal is to ensure that everybody gets an opportunity to share. Someone keep changing the subject and goes on a tangent. So what you should say that, that's very interesting, but how do you feel about, so you keep bringing them back. You refocus their attention, and I know you are enjoying sharing your experience with each other, but there are some issues I would like to share with you now. So you make sure others are talking. You can always say, in order to accomplish our goal, we need to move on. Because sometimes, the discussion is stuck. It's not moving. The person is saying one thing or the other thing or the other thing. So at times you need to time out. So you can very politely say, you don't disagree. You don't disagree. You don't say that you're not confronting. You're not. But but for the interest of everyone's time, and in order to accomplish the goal which you had set up for the conversations, you need to move on. People keep interrupting. So here I'm sure Sudeepji has a viewpoint, because we missed on your experiences and how did you handle those situations, because my intent of asking you that question is probably at least give us 2 pointers. How have you handled it? So people keep interrupting. I will share from my point of view, and then I will request Sudeepji to add to it. Could we remember just to have one person talk at a time and let people finish their statement? Okay, so you can, maybe if there are multiple people talking, then I'll say, okay, first Rupesh, then Sudeep, then Shrutika. We can always say, it's a good point, but it's important that we let Shrutika also finish. And then this person is dying to say something as well. So you let everybody contribute. So maybe Sudeepji, if somebody keep interrupting, what do you do in that situation?
Well, if he's talking relevant point, then I don't interrupt. But if he's going tangentially, then I say normally that, yeah, that's a valid point, but I don't think it is contributing anything to the task that we have at hand. We can discuss it after the session. I'll stay back. I will spare you half an hour. We can have a threadbare discussion on it. So we park it. Or if something, some point he raises, which for which I don't have immediate answer, I have a flip chart kept in my training hall for which is parking lot.
Yes.
I tell him to note it down there. We'll take it up at appropriate time. So that's how I normally diffuse the thing.
Wonderful. That works very well. I completely agree on relevance of bringing parking lot. anything else from anyone? Because this slide is all about experiences. This slide, I might give you some statements, but this slide is all about experiences.
Yeah, actually, I mean, one should have the ability to think on their feet, because there are different mechanisms. Not all work at different situations. You have to pick up the right one. It depends on your presence of mind and the situation, overall situation in the training hall.
Yes, yes. I'm sharing my viewpoint how I have handled, like when I brought in icebreakers also. So I brought in what I have done, but what I sincerely believe that I am not know-it-all person. That's the reason I keep requesting you guys to share it from your experience, because everybody, each one of us have different learnings from our experiences. And that's how peer learning really reinforces our, I mean, we don't have to learn it from our experience, we can learn it from others' experience also.
Yeah.
वो कहते हैं ना, धूप में बाल नहीं सफेद किए हैं, तो बाल सफेद करे बिना भी दूसरों के ग्रे हेयर्स आप सीख सकते हैं.
ऐसे भी life is not so big that we can make all the mistakes ourselves to learn.
I agree.
We try to learn from others' mistakes as well.
I agree. Okay, so let's go back to hostile and belligerent group members. So what you can do is that you keep your cool, but at times, sometimes our hot buttons are also triggered. And if somebody is constantly doing it and constantly pricking, so at times it's important that we also keep our cool. We try to incorporate the negative comments in a positive way. But that's like, we can always say that is interesting, unique, and different way to look at that situation. So something extremely off the tangent, extremely, irritating, you can always say, okay, interesting, unique, and different. I appreciate you contributing that different viewpoint. So because it keeps the humor running in the team, because what you need to ensure that you don't close off a participant also. And if it continues, try to meet this person in a break and caution them for their behavior. And I think this is the trick which Sadhji also gave me in one of the conversations. Because at times when you can't solve it in a larger group, it's important to have a one-on-one conversation. And you can always say it's really disruptive. If they choose to stay, they would like you will have to cooperate, because if it is, because it's a larger interest of the pool, if that's not meeting, you need to ensure that you convey to them that they are expected to cooperate. Someone puts another person down, remember help the group that there are no wrong answers. Everyone has his or her opinion, and it's not that I'm extremely intelligent, so I know all the answers and I'm right, and say someone else is not right. So that's, you make sure that you convey this to the group that they don't have a right to insult or probably put down anyone's question. Maybe the group gets stuck. You can always say, at times you get stuck, then you time out. You move on, because you need to ensure that you are able to fulfill the goal of the training. And we don't have an answer either. What you say is that, okay, you will take down the point, you either put it in the parking lot, or you will connect them to the relevant person in future. But from there you move on. There is inappropriate humor. Inappropriate humor is extremely, sometimes, somebody like, Jitendra was saying, people were laughing and mocking just because of an age. So these things will happen. Within the training group also, you will have people who have huge difference in their experience, huge difference in their cultural context, or huge difference in their experience, age, or a lot of environmental factors. So they do not have a right to throw an inappropriate humor, and you make sure that you're controlling that. So you can always say, I realize that you may have not intended it, and this is a pretty sensitive topic, and this kind of humor make a lot of people uncomfortable. So you caution them, but at the same time you alarm them also that this is what their humor is doing, and they better not repeat it during the training session. And you can always say, you can be very direct also. You can say, I don't think that these remarks are funny personally. Were you aware that people might find these remarks offensive? Because what you're also doing, you are also culturally sensitizing this person that these things are, if this person does that beyond this training group also, these things will spoil this person's perception and relationships. So you can always say that tomorrow would be relationships and networks. So sir, I would, this is not funny personally. So I request and recommend, and that will be my suggestion to you, that you do not repeat it beyond this training group also. They're not acceptable in my training group. So sometimes you need to be direct as well. You're running out of time. Don't panic. Just prioritize questions and points. Try to answer the important ones. Decide on the time, or you can have a follow-up session, or you can have content which is shared with people otherwise. So logically finish what you started, and reinforce on the important critical points. So do not panic. So because at times if you panic, you might not be able to at least finish what you have started, and you will leave people with ambiguous message. Someone challenges you as a group leader, often quite, happened as when there was sharing the experience. Don't become defensive. Let the group, air their dissatisfaction. Express your feeling. If they express their feeling, they cool off. You discuss the solution. As he said, he tried, asking them question to tell them, to help them understand the relevance of the training. And that's how he earned the right, and that's how he carried the conversation. You can always ask them also how they want to go about it. This is what you want to ensure that they learn by end of the session. If this is something they don't know at the start of the session, this is what they will learn during the session, and this is the relevance and need for this session. So make sure that you take them along in the process, and don't be defensive. People keep addressing their questions to you. You redirect the questions to you, because what will happen, one good way of these questions is that you can encourage participation by these questions. If no one in the group has a response, defer the question by someone, and you can always say that you will come back at a pertinent time and when you have the right information. Sometimes conflict occur, so they don't take sides. Remind people of the areas of agreement. So within the conflict also, you'll have an agreement, you'll have a disagreement, you agree to disagree. Ask people in conflict to agree to restate what they heard before they state their argument. Remind people that they're not there to judge each other or persuade other of their worth, but to further the mutual understanding. Summarize the conflict and ask for ideas from the whole group how to proceed. Acknowledge the disagreement and agree to move on. Try to put yourself in each person's position and try to understand the emotional impact. Acknowledge each person's concerns and the need, and agree, by an agreement to disagree and move on. You have an inability to move on to next topic. Try to be flexible about time. If something good is happening, assess the value of leaving that discussion in favor of completing an agenda. So you agree that, okay, something interesting is happening, but that's an agenda, that's something which we need to finish. We might come back to this. Give a 2-minute warning or some other transition time to prepare the group to change direction. Something is not finishing, give it a pause. Now we need to change direction. Acknowledge at the beginning of the session that time will be a factor, and some issues may not get discussed. So you can always agree that this is in the dearth of time, if this is a larger content which we need to cover. So by that agreement right in the beginning, you set up another time. If you want to finish the agenda, you can always say that we can set up another time, but for the interest of time, you move on. You can logically break also, give it a 2-minute break, and then move to the next session. Something inappropriate is stated, something offensive or information. You can agree to disagree to give people space to object without destroying the discussion. You give them a space. Okay, they have a right to object, but the larger theme or the larger interest is not destroyed. You acknowledge the discomfort over a comment and own it. Discomfort. You share for your discomfort. Don't speak for the group. Everybody feels so. I feel so. So So you make sure within your training room also people are using I statements. They are owning it up, they are individualizing, they are sharing their discomfort, and at the same time, you create an environment which is risk-free and people are allowed to share their discomfort. So this is how, these are a couple of things which happen, and these are a couple of questions which I shared with you. You can probably, use, and if you need, I can share this presentation with you. You can probably, these are a couple of ways you can carry the conversation in, probing with your participant to move on or to carry on, because you will continue having such people in your conversations. And this is what I wanted to discuss for today. This is just a couple of slides which I had from my last class, which is these couple of tools which I had shared on facilitation, probing, paraphrasing, summarizing, shifting perspective, positive reinforcement, including for the participant, icebreaker detail I had shared with you, and wrapping up. So it's extremely important you keep to committed ending time, because people might have other associations and other meetings post your meeting. You summarize the major point, you talk, you capture their feelings, and in understanding is in how did the discussion go, emphasize the commitment to confidentiality, ensure you start with that, you end with that, you share your own availability that you are available on this email address and people can always reach out to you, and you thank everyone, and at the same time, you let people reflect on their learnings by also building into action. So this is how you can carry on your conversation. I'm happy to answer one or two questions if you have. We'll have one more review class also. You can park it for that, or any specific topic and specific examples. I suggest you have a peer group. Keep your peer group or probably a WhatsApp group or some group to share or exchange learnings with each other. Anything from anyone? So we are at time. I will end if nothing, I will end the session. Thank you. You have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.